Let's look at the special treatment that SAPA is getting under the Eighth Circuit. Basically, an Obama-appointed judge puts together an argument, an opinion piece, stating that SAPA is unconstitutional, and then one of the claims is supremacy clause. The federal government,
and the thing is, they didn't really. If you want to think about it, they didn't truly apply supremacy clause here, because in the language of how they filed that, they admitted later in it, they admitted that the states have the right to refuse resources.
Yeah.
And they admitted that they have the right to define punishment for, their officers not doing what is state law. They didn't have a problem with that. What they did is they claimed that the first section of it, and this is why they claim, well, this shoots down the whole thing. All the other clauses are inoperative because this is unconstitutional. They claimed that the state of Missouri saying that we see these, not saying in fact they are, that we see these as being unconstitutional, therefore. They took but what is effectively a section that's a preamble to the entire thing, and it's saying that, well, you can't have an opinion on the constitutionality of this, because that's all it was. It was an opinion on the constitutionality and our reasoning for not cooperating with it. They're saying that people, the elected representatives who effectively yield the power of the constituency, the First Amendment right of those people being represented in that language is not good enough for them to have an opinion about the constitutionality of those things. This is a 10th Amendment issue. This is a Second Amendment issue. This is a First Amendment issue.
Yep.
They didn't have a problem with states not cooperating, because then that would take down everything else. They had a problem with the opinion.
Okay.
And then the most recent thing they put out, they admitted and in fact, if you read that section, it talks about where these elected representatives get the power from. Mentioned it. And then they said, we can't allow a stay because procedurally, state doesn't enforce it. Which, that was ironically enough one of Bailey's arguments, was that state doesn't enforce it, therefore we need the stay because it's been in place all this time and the state doesn't enforce it, so it's not a prerogative here, and therefore any injunction against it is a problem. It's a moot point. Well, that opinion denying the stay from Kavanaugh and the others said the same thing, and then said where the power is derived from, and then said that the people themselves enforce it through civil tort. So technically it's de facto in effect if you go ahead and when you file a suit.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Caleb. You're on a roll there, but I got to throw something in there. This goes back to what I was saying. I don't think, the feds will try to do any gun confiscation or something while they're still working on this because, I just lost my train of thought. It's because they're worried that just because of what he said there, that if they do try to do any gun confiscation or anything while this is still hanging here, should we win this case later on,
all the bills come due.
Back on, because it all comes down to suing. What did you say? Civil tort, right?
It's civil tort. You can still sue.
Yes.
And
yes, that's what I'm saying.
You can apply the things under SAPA so long as in your motion for the suit you mention for you pull for an immediate injunction against that pending the appeals process of SAPA, meaning that it falls under the same court's precedents. Or not precedents, the same court's opinion in this. So the moment that the cops do this, they get sued, and then the judgment is in what's the word I'm looking for? The judgment is effectively in a lull until SAPA is so that can actually be enforced. That portion of it that can be collected upon by the state. And that being said, is that if it's constitutional, guess what happens? All those bills come due, and all those cops involved have to be fired.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because even though SAPA is struck down now, just the fact that this partisan limit, you still have the right to sue anyone for anything. You could still, even though SAPA is struck down, because see, that was the beauty of SAPA. Instead of the government collecting the money, if the cops did something bad, you're right to go and sue. Because you can sue even if that law doesn't exist. You still have the right to go sue anyone for anything. Doesn't mean you're going to win it, but you have the right to sue them. Which is why I believe they're going to hold off on trying to confiscate or mess with anyone until this is solved for sure. Because you have the right to sue, and if we come back and win SAPA, then bam, now you got the letter of law behind your back for that case that you did them for, right?
And under a regular suit, if the law didn't exist, you wouldn't be able to use. Well, you would still be able to do it.
Well, I mean, you might not have letter of law behind you, but you still have that right to sue, which never changes.
Still only on their individual capacity, not their official, right, Caleb?
Oh, okay. Well, hang on. If without that, if the language was not there, you would not be able to sue. What's the word I'm looking for? With the removal of the sovereign immunity. But being that if you file the suit in such a way that such a way that sort of looking for, file it with the intention of an injunction following the judgment, pursuant to the pending appeal, then you should be able to use the sovereign immunity elimination as well as the other factors in SAPA, and then it just the judgment and the awarding of judgment is effectively enjoined in that pending the appeal.
Okay, it's just starting to go above my pay grade there, but I still think I get the gist of it.
Which in turn, you're self-enjoining with denial of stay until appeal is completed.
Yeah, they're just not going to. They're not going to take a chance on that coming back to bite them.
No, because if they do,
just to boil it all down to us, something, like you said, Einstein, make it simple. They're not going to take that chance because if you win, you can come back on them, right?
Anybody who's involved in that and ends up being sued in that, as soon as that is declared constitutional, every cop involved gets fired because they're unemployable, and then every $50,000 fee comes out.
There you go. We just did the Einstein thing. We made it simple.
Yep. Well, essentially, the enforcement I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm good.
Okay. The enforcement mechanism for SAPA looks like it's still in effect, regardless. So until this gets sorted out, we still have that. So, and once again,
you're just not rewarded anything until the appeals process is completed.
Correct. But it's still in effect, though. But you're right. So, that's something. And you know what? We expected they would do this anyway. We always expected they would do this.
Yeah, we definitely did. I mean, they filed an appeal at the Supreme Court level before it was ever even decided. Do you guys remember that?
Yep. Yeah. So, this frightens them. And the last thing they want is, of course, the notoriety of a case like SAPA, Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act, going in front of the Supreme Court. That'll bring a lot of attention to it. Other states are going to go, why can Missouri do this and not us?
Thanks for watching. And if you like what you heard, spread the word.